It has been a crazy couple of weeks when it comes to tabletop gaming news, and then CMON, more commonly referred to as Cool Mini or Not, put out this press release. Our CMON community means a lot to us, so we felt it was important to share with you some difficult decisions at our company today. Given global conditions, and most notably the situation with tariffs, CMON has decided to focus on our current commitments to our customers and partners and prioritize a timely delivery of existing projects. So effective immediately, we will be pausing all future game development and new crowdfunding campaigns until trade conditions have stabilized. Unfortunately, this involves extremely difficult staffing decisions affecting all of our creative teams with reductions. Basically, CMON is laying off some of their development staff, and they are bringing up tariffs here. In particular, they're probably talking about the tariffs that are being applied to Chinese imports. The reality is this situation is going on for a little bit longer. You may have seen this news a few weeks ago. From BoardGameWire.com, 2 weeks after revealing its 2024 losses could exceed $2 million, CMON delays publishing annual results, citing understaffed finance department. Now, of course, 2024 was prior to the tariffs and prior to even President Trump taking office, so things were not in the best of shape before the tariff situation even began. When it comes to talking about this annual results, what it is for publicly traded companies, they have to produce a document each year talking about financial information, revenue, profits, all that fun stuff, as well as things about risks, liabilities, and other things pertaining to the operation of their company, to basically, in order to be honest to investors and potential investors about how their company is doing. Now, CMON is traded on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and we see a little bit of information about their rules right here. Hong Kong Stock Exchange rules require companies to submit their annual results no later than 3 months after the end of the most recent financial year, in this case by March 31st, 2025. Failing to submit its annual results before the end of March will see CMON shares suspended from trading on the exchange until the report is published. As for why exactly this report is not being published, well, we saw a little bit about citing understaffed finance departments, but that's not the only reason that CMON gave. It added that the delay was also partly due to being in the process of taking legal advice, after 2 new shareholders due to invest about $1.39 million into the business had failed to hand over money for their stakes. And well, if we take a look at their stock information over here on Google Finance, we can see that there's no data for the last month because indeed trading has been suspended. And at the current time right now, which is near the end of April 2025 when I'm recording this video, CMON has still not published their annual report, and this is a good time to mention a wonderful disclaimer that I am not your financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor at all, and this is not financial advice. We're just having some fun, taking a look at some information about a gaming company to figure out what the heck is going on with them. Now, in a moment, we're probably going to be scratching our heads a bit looking at some revenue information, but before we get there, I want to remind you guys about FracturedColony.com. That is my line of 3D printable gaming miniatures. They are near future sci-fi military vehicles. I got a couple of them sitting back here. And if you want to see what else is available, once again, head over to FracturedColony.com and check out the entire line of FFF compatible 3D printable gaming miniatures. Let's get back to our main topic. When it comes to figuring out the financial stability of a company, especially a publicly traded one might turn to their annual reports. Now, of course, I just mentioned that the 2024 one is not yet available, but previous years are out there, and this is the one from 2023. I want to take a look at a few points from it, and you're going to realize why things are a bit confusing when it comes to try to figure out the health of a company like CMON. So this is one of the overview pages from the report. For the financial year under review, our revenue was approximately US $45.1 million, decreasing from approximately $45.3 million for the previous financial year. We jump down a bit here. Their profit was approximately US $0.8 million. And below that, we get a little bit of information about the Kickstarter projects they launched that year. During the financial year under review, we launched 4 Kickstarter games, namely Marvel United Multiverse, Zombicide White Death, Mordred, Deceased, a Zombicide game, and raised approximately US 4.8 million, 3.8 million, US 0.7 million, and US 2.6 million respectively. And those numbers there are the totals they raised for the given Kickstarter projects, and those numbers are all pretty easy to validate. You can head over to the various Kickstarter pages and see the numbers right there, and you can see they're accurate. So what gets confusing then is when we head down to the part of the report, we start seeing a little bit more details on how they calculated the revenue for Kickstarter. Revenue via Kickstarter increased to approximately US 26.4 million for the year ended 31st December 2023 from approximately US 25.1 million for the year ended 31st December 2022, which was mainly due to the increase in recognition of sales of 6 Kickstarter projects in 2023 compared to 5 Kickstarter projects in 2022. Now, 2 things you're going to notice. One is if you add up the numbers from the previous section, they come out to a little bit under 12 million, which is clearly not 26.4 million. And maybe you might think that, well, perhaps they're factoring in late pledge revenue, which is entirely possible, because that information is not really available in terms of the revenue from the late pledges over in Backer Kit. But also you notice they mentioned they're counting the revenue or recognition of sales of 6 Kickstarter projects in 2023, when just a moment ago they said they only launched 4. The thing is, accounting with Kickstarter and crowdfunding, well, it's a bit more complicated and you have some flexibility in how you do things. Once again, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not an accountant. Talk to someone who really knows what's going on when it comes to this stuff, but essentially you don't have to actually record the revenue of a Kickstarter project in the year you raise the revenue. You have options to say record that revenue in future years when you, quote, ship the project. My point of mentioning all this stuff is not to accuse CMON of everything. I'm fairly certain they're following legal accounting principles with Kickstarter and crowdfunding. However, as a casual observer who's kind of curious to know what's going on with this company when you're seeing a lot of bad news about it, it's very difficult to figure out if they're actually in really good financial shape, because there is some flexibility in terms of reporting revenue for any given year. When it comes to the topic of what went wrong for CMON in 2024, we do have one piece of factual information we can look at, because they do release a middle of the year report for their financials, and we have that. And what we can see here for the 6 months ended 30th of June 2024, the wholesale revenue was only about $6 million US when compared to a little bit less than 10 million in the previous year. So for whatever reason, we could speculate all day long about what's going on here, but CMON saw a pretty substantial drop in game stores ordering their products. On the topic of wild speculation, some of the things that might be going on for any given game store as well, for whatever reason, CMON products are no longer selling well in that store and therefore they're not going to order any more. Or it is possible, if some of these Kickstarter projects are being dragged out for so long and game stores pre-ordered some of those, they're going to be like, well, we haven't got the ones that we pre-ordered in 2023 yet, and it's the middle of 2024, so we're not going to go ahead and pre-order some of the current Kickstarter projects that are being run in 2024. Now, of course, I have no evidence for either one of those, and it's quite possible that both are true. It really kind of depends on a game store by game store basis, and we're never going to see any evidence to support one of those because it's kind of hard to collect such an amount of evidence from a variety of stores. There are a few other things we can talk about that may or may not have affected CMON in one way or another. And the first one I want to start with is this news story here. Now, earlier in the year, this is important to note, this all kind of went down at the very beginning of 2025, is that Diamond Comic Distributors declared bankruptcy, and they ended up owing money to several tabletop game companies. Now, being the fact this occurred in 2025, well, then that wouldn't affect the financials of CMON in 2024. And also, I'm pretty sure that CMON didn't even use them as a distributor. And the reason I can say that is because a few years ago, we got some articles talking about how CMON decided to go with Asmati North America to handle distribution in North America. If you go back to the article over on Board Game Wire, you're going to see comments like this in some news articles. CMON had entered a non-binding agreement to sell some of the unspecified IPs last August, but terminated that arrangement last month after CMON and the unnamed buyer failed to agree terms. I've seen some comments on these like stock news tip websites talking about how CMON supposedly entered into a memorandum of understanding with an unknown company to sell that company approximately $12 million in their intellectual property. Now, if this was true, that's not exactly a good sign for a company to be selling off their intellectual property because, well, that's usually their most valuable asset. However, this source for these things, as far as I can tell, is essentially some Chinese financial app, and it's not even like identifying like a source close to CMON or supposedly somebody in CMON or somebody supposedly familiar with negotiations. I'm not entirely sure who would actually be making these claims of them selling intellectual property. So it's entirely possible this story about this supposed memorandum of understanding for selling IP, which fell through, could be a load of crap. We really don't know. Where do things stand for CMON at this point in late April 2025? I'll be honest with you, things don't look particularly great. Now, according to their own project tracker for crowdfunding, they've got 10 projects in here that are still not fully fulfilled, and some will not going to be fulfilled until late 2026. As we see, Cthulhu Death May Die Forbidden Reaches is estimated to be shipped in the third quarter of 2026. The reality at this point is no one except CMON really knows what the financial stability of their company is like. We want to believe that's in halfway decent shape, especially if you backed any of these projects, but that's not something we can say with confidence right now. Hopefully in a few days here, we're going to see a financial report from them that looks halfway decent. Ideally, the fact that they're waiting to like their absolute latest extended deadline, which is the end of April, is probably not a great thing. You would think if it was just a process of, well, let's revalidate all these numbers, that they would just do that as quickly as possible and get it out and get their shares traded again. But we really don't know what exactly is going on at that company right now. Hopefully we get some good news in the next few days, but it's all kind of up in the air right now. If things change here, you'll probably get another video from me. Anyway, I want to thank you guys all for watching. I wish I could leave you with a little bit better, more hopeful note, but I can't right at the moment because I do know some people who have backed some of this stuff and they would probably really like to get their games delivered. And we're all hoping that this is not another case of a Mythics game disaster, which, by the way, CMON did buy several properties from Mythics games, and there is one other project not on this list that's technically not crowdfunding that, as far as I know, they haven't delivered on yet. So there's more things going on in the background than what you're gonna see just by doing some casual looking around. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching. I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. Check out fracturedcolony.com for more 3D printable gaming miniatures, and I'll see you guys all next time.